Okay, folks, good morning again. Let's see if we can go get that last guy painted. This morning I was able to finish up the one Bowman that I nearly got done. This fella right here. And then my headache got too big, so I went and took care of that. And now I'm back for more. So these are the 5 figures that were going to consist of the 6 for the fast bow. The 2 fast bow stands. And we got one guy left to do. We'll plan on doing that in the morning, this morning, and they'll be ready to seal up and base. And when that's done, we'll have 5 elements done of this army. So, as you can see, I like to do all of these before I start sealing them, because if you notice, there's 2 figures, and I'll point them out to you. This one right here and this one right here that are very similar in color. So before it's done, I may actually end up tinkering with one of them to make them look a little different. Maybe we'll paint the inside of the helmet on one of them like we talked about either yesterday or the day before, just to make them look a little different and have them pop out. So I know one's got brown pants, one of them's got blue, and they both have kind of a light gray type shirt, jacket, whatever you want to call it. I guess it'd be a jacket because they have an undershirt on there. But anyways, this is the last one that we did, the green one. We're going to do another, we're going to do a red coated one, as they talked about red and green coated figures. So we're going to do the next one in red. All right. Let's open this up. And make sure the sound is going. The sound is going, okay. And hopefully we won't have any glitching this morning. Round 2. So let's go ahead and get a red. And I want to use the red that's a little bit more orange, although you wouldn't think that this would be very orange based on this, but it's more orange than the other ones. This what they call scarlet. And let's go ahead and put that one down here. Say over here. Are we charging here? Yes. Okay. try to avoid the details on the front of his tunic. Almost looks like piping. It's on the front of his tunic. Because if we don't do that, actually, I'm going to need to add a little bit of black. It looks like the spot. There we go. Looks like the primer actually popped a little tiny little bubble, and I didn't notice it until now. Okay, so here's their base color red on him. It's almost a maroon color, what it looks like. So we're going to take that same color here where we were blending it. We're going to add a little bit more of the core color. And we're avoiding the sleeves on the shirt because they're going to be, more than likely, they're going to be white, like it is on the green one. We'll plan on doing that. And a lot of people, when they highlight red, are very resistant to mix white into the highlight because they say they turn it pink. But if you've ever looked at a red shirt that's been out in the sun for a while, it totally will turn into those colors. There's nothing wrong with it being a little pinkish. Sometimes I do like to use yellow. I haven't determined which one of the two I'm going to do. We'll just kind of wing it. I'm a big fan of winging it because then, you never know. You could change your mind depending on how things are turning out. Oh, we got some folks on. Welcome. Headache gone. It did, yes. Tony will be auctioning off his wet palette sheets this month. It's art. You know what? It's better than some stuff that's in modern art. But I actually have a really interesting thing, a really interesting story. Well, I don't know if it's really interesting. It's my story. That's why you guys will decide whether or not it's interesting or not. So, in my college days, I took a class. I took an art class for, let's just call it. It wasn't to actually do art. It was an elective for artwork and stuff like that. And I remember the teacher. This is probably like 1990, early 90s, whatever the hell it was. And the teacher said, "Well, we can't say that something is good art or bad art." And I'm thinking, well, I can tell you that the person has no talent because there's things that I don't like. Okay, like when you're talking about, artwork, but just some stuff just doesn't. Maybe I just didn't do the right drugs, you know, or any drugs other than caffeine and alcohol. Maybe that's what makes you appreciate it. But there's things that, there's artwork I don't care for too much, but I can still tell what it is, or that effort got put into it. But one of our projects is we wanted to go to the local art museum here at the University of Florida, and one of the reasons I didn't realize why there was so much, I'm going to call it junk there, is they got a lot of their things by donation. So if you have something really nice, like say a painting by, I'm just going to throw Velázquez out there, you're probably not going to donate that, right? So, there's all kinds of weird stuff. And, there's a there's literally almost like a wall, a white wall, and it had a bunch of faucets, and they weren't even designed in some kind of a arrangement of something. They were just linear, and it was called, I don't know, 27th of November or something. It didn't have anything. It's just like, I'm the wrong person to appreciate that kind of stuff, or I don't know. Like I said, maybe I didn't do the right drugs, but there's certainly artists, and of course we're talking about, so not all modern art I would say is bad, or that I dislike modern art, or that things need to be crystal clear. I like some things that are impressionistic. It just depends on what it is, but yeah, there's some crazy stuff out there that, I know you guys, there's some Picasso fans out there. I really don't know what you guys are smoking, or maybe what your parents were smoking, but you're allowed to like things that are different than me. Yeah. I just don't get it, You need to. Anybody you should paint better than me. Maybe that's the thing I should say. If it's fine art, it needs to be something that's better than what I could do, or a kindergartner, or what have you. Maybe I have wrong expectations. So you won't see me swooning over something from Jackson Pollock, or, Oh man, crazy stuff. But I guess it's like music. People have really different taste in music, or food. We tried a new restaurant. We tried a new Italian restaurant. I'd never been in. I've lived in this area since 1981, and this place had been. It's kind of between the next city over. So it was about 13 miles away, out in the middle of nowhere. A little Italian restaurant. It was spectacularly good, and went in there with another couple we spent the day with yesterday, and we're foodies, and what was it that I said? I said, we know how to eat, so if I say it's amazing, it's freaking fabulous. So yeah, that was some incredible food, and yeah, the art. If something's in an art museum, it needs to be better than what I can do. You know. Oh well. But yeah, a lot of it is donation, so that makes sense. I didn't realize that. If you're going to donate something, then maybe it's something somebody donated to you. You don't want it anymore. You don't want it in your house. I've seen stuff that's literally a painting, and the entire thing was painted red. Not even different shades of red, just like one red, and they give it some kind of a fruity title. Sorry, a painting that's painted one color shouldn't get a title, other than red. That's what it should be called. Oh man, there's some crazy people out there. So yeah, we had to go and do a report of our visit there for school. We had to do what else did we have to do? We had to pick an artist and do like a report on, I forget exactly, the particular work of art, and also on the artist and how it, I don't know, some other stuff to it. So I picked, of course, Surrender of Breda by Velasquez. If you don't know what that is, you need to get out more. It's a beautiful painting. And, wargaming related, of course. I'm not going to pick some pacifist painting. Why? We don't have to. Okay, so I think the red's good. Let's take a look at this. Much better than an all red painting, I have to say. We may tinker and highlight that up a little bit. Kind of like when I do the shields, I fill it in and do some final highlights later, just to kind of add to that. Art appreciation. Yeah. No, and you know, when you paint, and I'm saying this, there's people that paint a hell of a lot better than I do. It's not like I'm the pinnacle of it or anything, but you know, I know what kind of time and effort. I'm not going to say effort because right now what I'm doing is kind of effortless, but it has been effort over, well, since I was 15. So what is that? 35 years? Yeah, it's been effort throughout the years. Now it's kind of effortless, but it still takes time. So when you see something that somebody could have just, you know, you could have gotten like a monkey throwing, you know, art at, paint at something. You're like, well, that didn't take any effort, you know. I don't know. Maybe I look at it differently. Are there people that paint miniatures really well that still appreciate stuff that is like a single color on a canvas? I hope not. But you know, I did my first painting within the last 2 years that I've ever done, and that was the little backgrounds I did for some of these figures. I'm gonna pull one of them out so you can remember what I'm talking about. And they're not some work of art or anything, but they're the easiest thing to do. And I should have done this years ago, but I had analysis paralysis, as we all can, and that's really stifled our productivity. And this is another magic of YouTube. I had no idea how I was going to do this, and I was so afraid of doing it wrong. Never painted on a canvas. And I'm like, well, I really don't want to do a painting, but let me at least do something that I can put on the background of my figures. So I searched out on YouTube, and there was a video on how to paint this particular artwork. Now, this is horrible. I don't think this is supposed to be closer to the viewer and the perspective or whatever. But the background turned out really nice. And this is one of the backgrounds that I use when I put behind my figures when I take photos of them. And this is all done with El Cheapo craft paints. So, you know, I didn't have to go and buy the Liquitex tubes as much as I would have loved to. But this is super freaking easy to make. And it also took about 10 minutes to do. So I just had never tried this until like 2 years ago. And it's like the easiest thing in the world. If you're a relativist, beauty is subjective, but it's not. People are able to deny reality when it comes to art. I'll have to look a few of those words up. You know, as a painter, you know, I mean, if you're a sculptor, right? If you sculpt, let's just say you sculpt figures, right? You know, and assuming you do good work, you know, and other people do sculptings, and you're like, that guy just threw like that stuff together, and you know, that took no effort. I mean, you know what it is. So, you know, to think that that everything is the same is, oh well, people are entitled to their opinion. But anyways, these things are super easy to do. So I literally followed a YouTube video on how to do this. Now, I didn't buy the expensive paints. You know, I literally used the ones that are like, I use this crap, and this paint is crappy. There's no doubt about it. It has a lot of filler and stuff like that, but that's the kind of stuff that I used. Because even though I use crappy paint, you're still using good brushes on it. So what did I do? So I'm like, well, since I'm only going to use half of the painting, okay, then, and here's the thing that I would have never known. In that painting, the very first thing this person did was he painted the entire canvas. He covered it with like a raw sienna color, okay? Which I never would have thought to do. I mean, why would I have covered the entire thing? Even if you're going to paint something really light, he covered this entire thing in this. That's how that one painting started. And I'm like, I wouldn't have ever thought about that if I wouldn't have watched that video. So I do that one painting. I'm like, well, you know, I really need a forest one for my Russians. So I painted a forest one, right? And then I'm like, well, I really don't need this space down here because it's just going to be behind my figures. So let me use the same little canvas and make one for like the step. You know, so I backed the groundwork to here, to do it. Again, this takes like freaking 10 minutes. And it's easy to do. I've never painted clouds before. It's just, if you've never done it, just start doing it. And you'll have a clue. You'll figure it out. It's, again, you need to fight that analysis paralysis because it's evil. And then I did one for the desert. I just wanted some like rocks. I guess eventually I probably need some ones with dunes or whatever here. This is what this one's left for, is that second one. Easy as anything. Unbelievably easy. And just something that I should have been doing for years. So, anyhow. Yeah, there's great stuff on YouTube. And I'm not talking about this channel. I'm talking about, there's a lot of people giving you free advice, and you can see like, man, that looks really cool. Let me see if I can do it. And they go through all the steps. You're like, that's too involved for me. I don't think I can do that, And I've learned a lot of stuff through YouTube about firearms, cars. You can do little things to your car. They're like, I wonder what involved that is, how involved that is. So you go in there and like, well, that looks like something I could do, and you could become more knowledgeable about something. So there's great stuff out there. And there's also a lot of garbage too. Like, hey, watch me light myself on fire, or jump over a bonfire. Jackass type stuff, I mean, it might be entertaining, but ultimately it's not very useful. No. Share your skill set with other folks. Not everybody's an expert on everything. So, speaking of sculpting, I'm going to need to do some sculpting on. I don't think I need to do it on the Dracula figure, but I have to do some sculpting when I do the general for my pre-feudal Scots. But again, I watched a video. I had no idea that you needed to add. Well, I hadn't done it so long. I think I forgot what it is. You needed to add a little bit of water to it so it doesn't stick to your fingers. I wouldn't have known that. You got to watch other people's ideas on stuff like that and see how, and learn from. You don't have to make the mistakes yourself. You can learn from some other people's mistakes as well. I wonder how the 3D printing is going to change in, say, like 10 years. It's not there yet right now. I don't think. I think it's too. I've got some 3D printed items that other people have made, but I've got no interest to getting into that. I think by the time I buy the machine, the frustration that I'm going to have with it configuring itself, and I'm not going to buy a machine made in China, and I think they're all made in China, the ones that are affordable. So, somebody else can buy that. You have those Chinese instructions. If you want put in front of heater, all the right words are there, but in the wrong order, yeah, I'm not dealing with that. But at the show that we go to, our 2 shows in Florida, before the pandemic, there was a couple guys that always had 3D printers, and they were printing stuff there. And I don't think they were really selling them. I think they just kind of had a booth to kind of let people know, hey, this is what you can do with it. But their selling point was always like, if you 3D print, you can buy, you can have all the king tigers that you need for this or that and the other. And I'm like, I don't need more things to paint. I've got plenty of things to paint. If I never bought another thing, I'm not going to run out of things to paint. I paint so damn slow that's not an issue. It would be more like, if I need to convert something or if I want a miniature of one thing that's not made by anybody else, but to make, I need more M10 tank destroyers, and I don't want to spend a fortune on them. Yeah. Okay, so I've 3D printed. Are they going to paint themselves? No, that's not really. Doesn't really help me out any. I need to 3D print a version of myself, and it can go to work, and I stay here doing painting videos. That would be a solution I could get behind. I don't think that's going to work out that way. All right, now I think what we did on this guy is we did his the lacing, but we didn't use white. We did use white. We just used brown to darken it. That's what we're going to do. All right, so let's go ahead and do his lacing. He's got lacing on here like I envision a hussar having. That is, I believe, the part of the world where this hussars came from. Serbian type of uniforms. For those of you who are nappy fans, that's my extent. I'm not an expert on that. I'm not even well knowledgeable on that period. That would be the reason for me to play Napoleonics, is to learn about the period. Because, as I've said before, I find wargaming and miniature painting is a way to learn about history and then participate in it to a degree. By making figures or what have you. But the way to get me to learn about Napoleonic stuff is to play Napoleonics. And that period is kind of dead to me because everybody that I know has plenty of stuff for that. So it would be silly for me to waste my time painting stuff for that. All right, so we got some lacing on him. A lacy guy. Let's do his face. Do him in the face. All right, let's stir this up and see if there's any. Yeah, we're still good there. We're gonna have to rebuild the red though. Yeah, the headache. Let's hope the headache doesn't come back. I really don't do well with headaches. I really don't do well with headaches. All right, so we got our red leather. This is curling up and starting to annoy me. I'm gonna write myself a note. I need to buy more of these things before I run out. You don't know how long it's going to take for things to get to you these days, so you don't want to run out of things. Paint, palette, sheets. I got about 8 more, I think. I think you can Amazon them somewhere. So, because Red Grass Games, I think it's in Europe. So we don't want to order sheets of paper from Europe. That wouldn't be wise. Okay, time for his facial. Now find me a spot that's not violated by other colors. And as you can hear, the other people of this house are awake. I want to get this guy done so we can do some sealing now. The high today, I think, is going to be in the 40s. Well, I'm not scared of spraying them. And a lot of people freak out and have these crazy episodes of frosting with their sealer. I don't know what that's all about. I've never had it happen to me. Never had it happen to me. But I don't want it to happen to other people either. I mean, that's kind of a frustrating thing to spend all that time and then right when you're ready to show off what you're doing, it blows that away. I know I try to learn from other people's mistakes. I had a friend of mine who, we were painting 20 millimeter World War II stuff. He had painted a JS2. It was painted really nice. JS2 tank. And he went to spray it, clear coat it, and he grabbed the wrong container, and it was black. So he ended up priming over his beautiful paint job. So I try to remember things like that. Like, I shouldn't have to relearn something like that. Let's just do a double check. Make sure you got the right container and you don't ruin a great job that you did. But I've never had the frosting issue with the clear. And I'm not sure what exactly is the problem that people have been having, what it's attributed to. All I know is that I don't go really thick, and I keep the can in the temperature it's going to spray out of. So in other words, I spray in the garage, whatever the temperature the garage is, the can and the contents in the can are at that same temperature. And I didn't do that on purpose. It's not like I'm a scientist and figured it out. That it needs to, but the spray is not coming out like cool and then like warming in midair and I don't know. I just keep, that's why I spray, so there's no point in bringing the can back inside. That's why I did it. And I've sprayed in hot weather. It's been raining outside, like literally the garage is open so you don't breathe in the fumes. And it's 100% humidity, can't get any wetter than that. And never had a problem with the spray. I've sprayed in the cold. I haven't sprayed in under freezing conditions because it doesn't get that cold here, but never had an issue with it. And I don't know. Lots of people. It seems like about a third of the people that seal have had a problem with that. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing wrong with it. They could be getting really old product, Shake the can of varnish, test, hit the model again. It should dissolve the frost. Huh? I've never had a problem with it. You would know, yeah, you're in a frosty place. I don't go really thick on the spray. I don't. And now that I'm painting the flat coat on, that's not only one coat I have to worry about possibly getting thick. The problem with the spray is you get it everywhere, but you don't get it you get it all over the model, but there's nooks and crannies you're going to miss. So if you try to force with a spray can to try to get it everywhere, you're going to get too much in the places that are towards the top. And it's just going to look weird, And good morning, Patriot, to you, by the way. It's got to be frosty where you're at. I mean, it dropped into 20 something last night. And it was pretty cold from the standpoint that all day long my feet were cold. I mean, they were like almost to the bone. It's not a complaint, just an observation. I'm going to soak up as much of this cold as I can. But yeah, it's gotten like 17 here before. But that's kind of unusual. 20s isn't that unusual. We'll get 4 or 5 days of 20s, not necessarily in a row. And like in 3 days, it's going to be up to 80. Typical nonsense of the Sunshine State here. I'd love it if it stayed cooler longer, but I don't want to shovel any of that stuff. No, thank you. All right, let's add some fleshy tones here. I think it's when the can freezes, then thaws out in different conditions. It happened once or twice in my time. Well, yeah, if the contents separate in there, and I don't, there's got to be a couple different materials, right? There's got to be the propellant, and there's got to be the actual sealer. If they separate or whatever, I could see that happening. And it could be old product on the shelf. I used to have a hell of a time with epoxy that it wouldn't set. Of course, this was like back in the 80s. But now I have no problems with the epoxy setting. But if you're using material that is, been on the shelf for, I don't know, 10 years or something, and never got sold, and that's the one you buy, I can see those things not working well, as they should. I remember back when we were doing 1/2400 scale ships, I got the ideas from somebody that I had seen. They would write down the name of the ship on the bottom, and they would color code the bottom of the ship. So like the French were like a French blue, the British were red, Americans I think were white, and they had the name of the ship. Well, some models were hollow, and in particular I had a Giulio Cesare model from Superior in 2400 scale that was hollow, and I couldn't do anything, so I filled it in with epoxy. But I used this epoxy that was never set well, and it always remained, the bottom of the ship always remained tacky for as long as I had it. It was really annoying. But it was a very hollow bottom, not like the GHQ ones where there is some hollowness to them. Yeah, that was before people were putting ships on stands and stuff. Eventually, I did go to that, but yeah, I remember this epoxy just never set, never did. I don't remember what epoxy. I might have gotten some epoxy my dad had, who had bought it, in the 70s. I don't know. But I lost confidence in epoxy for a long time. And now, epoxy and I are buddies. Epoxy and I are buddies. What I'm not real friendly with these days is super glue, because it's so darn brittle. And so I try not to use it much. I'll use it to glue these figures on these pennies, and they pop off pretty easy. But other than that, I don't really use super glue for a lot of stuff. Man, I love painting flesh. And I'm telling you, when I first started painting when I was 15, 16 years old, I couldn't stand it. Until I hit upon a method that worked for me. When I was doing in the early 90s 1/35th scale models, I didn't like painting the figures. Because I'm like, man, how am I going to make that guy look like a real person? With wargame figures, you don't have to. They can look cartoonish, and still work. They can still work for what I want them to look out like. It's bow time. It's bow time. Put it right next to that same other color. Yeah, when I was using before the wet palette, I would use a shim. It was actually a plastic shim from work. And I had extra ones I didn't use, and commandeered a couple of them. And I would just mix on there. But the problem is there's no way to keep it hydrated. So after about 10 minutes, the paint you have on there is going to dry and you have to mix up another batch. So it's not that you save that much more paint. It's just that it's not as annoying having to stop what you do to mix another batch of the color that you were using and you weren't done with. So again, we're going to use black. We'll mix it into this because I don't mind this gray color it turns into for the lower shades. I've used brown before, but I've consistently stayed with this one, so we'll just use this mix for this army. And we're going to make this figure blonde. We're going to give this guy a blonde guy from that part of the world. Not everybody needs to look like Dracula. Vlad Dracul. Let's go back, let's get to the core color. Or almost. There we go. All right, let's take some of this white and mix it with this. Let's look at the other bowman and make sure we brought this up to that same level. All right. Pants. The other guy was gray, right? And these two guys won't be on the same stand. One will have the red one will have the green one. We're going to use an off-white color and mix it with brown. So we're going to do something like silver gray, one word, silver gray. I don't use any of these colors straight. There's always like a starting point for I don't think it makes that much of a difference if I was just going to use straight white and do this with it. But I've got all these other colors, so we might as well show the love. And we still have brown there. have a feeling this army is going to play very similarly to my Irish, which means I'm going to have a ball with it because I really like playing the light and no, need more brown on that for the starting point. There we go. Play an army that can't stand still. It's always moving around here. Of course, they can have some allies to bolster them up, including some Poles, which unfortunately have knights. And as I was showing the other day, is with me, knights and I don't really like to mix up. Knights leave me hanging all the time. It's that impetuousness. You know, people like them because they have a quick kill. I just don't like them because they misbehave. You know, they advance when they don't need to and get themselves in trouble. And they make for good games and they're fun to paint. There's no doubt about that. I do love painting knights, but man, they have a habit of seizing defeat from the jaws of victory. But this is a cool army. They fight my Turks. I use them in Saloy Silliness. I can use them in Wimp Wars. I can bolster them up with some allies. They can do Fast and Furious, I believe. That's something else they can do. So, yeah, they have a lot of options. All right, now we will add more of this here. And honestly, that's what I enjoy painting more, playing with, is the unusual lighter armies. So, you know, talking about building a medieval French, when am I getting around to doing that? Probably not for a long time. That's just too much of a standard, you know. It'd be useful because, you know, the Hawbox have some 100 Years War English to do. But that's not going to add an army that is just flighty. All right. What color did we use for his accoutrement? We did these red leather. The saddle brown, sorry, not red leather, saddle brown. All right. And unlike the Lice Horse figures, these figures don't have a ton of stuff on them, which of course makes it a lot easier to finish them up and move to the last guy. And the figures we're going to use for the skirmishers, they have even less stuff than these guys. So hopefully they'll paint up really quick. Yeah, thank God that headache was over with. I'd rather go to work than have a headache. I can't think. So if I really want to have fun next, I could do the artillery piece. But I think I'm going to do the skirmishers, only because that's going to put a big dent. That's 12 figures to paint, and that'll be six stands with 12 figures. So that's probably what I'm going to do next. As much fun as I like having with an artillery piece, they're literally the most fun piece to paint. And I'm glad I got that artillery crew from Essex, the Eastern European artillery crew, because they looked the part. Even though there's no pictures of them online. For whatever reason, they decided not to put them in there. All right. See if we still have that. We do. It's just over here. That bronze for the parts on the sword. And let's not forget we still have to paint his hair. And we decided we were going to make this guy blonde. Or light brown or something like that. We'll figure it out as we go. And the color we can use for the wrappings on the sword handle. Okay, and then the belt. I know I still don't have some of this color from earlier. Wish I could even tell where I put it down. Over here. Let's open up the coat d'arms again. Best paint, not the best container. Actually, there's nothing wrong with the container. The problem is that the pieces break off of them. They're not really durable, but they do seal up the paint probably better than anything else. It's like the old Citadel ones. Still have some of those old Citadel paints kicking. You know, that's a sign they're like freaking 30 years old. Lazy Hobby Corner, welcome. Greetings, very snowy Finland. Nice. Been a while since I've been able to catch you live. Excellent. Actually, it's probably Lazy's, isn't it? Not Lazy's, not Lazy's. Yeah, Finland. Mr. Wolf, welcome. Good to see you again. See you again? No, see you again when I watch the video. What is this? This is... I've got a long hair here somewhere. Aha! My wife's been around. I don't have hair that long. Fortunately. If my hair was that long, it would be invariably touching my ears more, and I don't know if I could stand it. Where is that? There we go. Only a few more things to paint on this fellow, and he's done. And I don't think I'm done painting, so we'll move on to something else. Would have had a longer painting this session this morning if I didn't have that headache. I just count my blessings and be glad it's in the past. And be glad that I don't get it tomorrow. I don't need that on a work day. It's challenging enough without having to deal with that nonsense. Okay. And now we got to do his face. Let's take a look at this guy so far. And the back side. Okay. So let's go do his. Did I say do his face? No, do his hair. All right. So we're gonna make him blonde, right? All right. So let's get a couple colors out here. They usually do not make an appearance. Okay. We're going to get some flat yellow. You don't need very much of it. And we can use that yellow. That's fine. Well, that's the same color as the bow, so let's mix that up a little bit. Well, we're going to mix that with a different color, so we'll be all right. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of this chocolate brown, put it over here. Boy, this thing, look how this is. I just don't want to go in and add more water to it. You know, I will afterwards. I don't want to interrupt myself here and add water to it, but and this thing was soaking wet when I started with it. We're going to add some of this chocolate brown, and then we're going to add this color right here, which is incidentally the same color that we used for the bows, except we mixed the bow with black, not this brown. Well, we need more substance to it. A little too watery. Okay, and then we're going to paint his beard all in this color. Beard and hair, I should say. All right, and because I based this in black, you could tell there's a little bit. Look at the line underneath the hair. See, there's black underneath this. That helps pop that out and make it look like it's black lined or something like that. I would hate to have to go in and fix that afterwards, and then possibly have to retouch something else. All right, so he's totally covered in that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of this yellow here. Let's see what happens with that. Right, and we're going to highlight using that. Again, these Essex figures are pretty damn good castings. They have pretty good faces and paint really well. The problem is you guys have seen them for hundreds of years, seems like. And the one thing that I will tell you is if you painted one Essex Army, you've kind of painted them all. In other words, they all have the same look. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, maybe this isn't your best choice, but they do paint up really well. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit more of this yellow. Okay. And I'm almost stippling. I have an army. I don't remember which one it is. Maybe it's my Norwegian. I have several blonde different, and you can do all kinds of stuff. If you're painting blonde characters, you can make all kinds of different variations. There's some things that you really can get a ton of variation. Like if you're painting like African skin, you can do all kinds of variety of African skin in just using the same browns and stuff. It's really pretty cool, and it gives them a lot of personality. So we add a little bit of white to this, and we're going to come in and we're going to highlight some of this stuff so it pops out. But we want to leave spots that still have the other color underneath. Otherwise, why did you bother doing all these steps if you're not going to have these other colors show? This guy kind of has a haircut like Captain Kangaroo. You don't know who that is? Look it up. Maybe a tiny little bit more white. Okay, and we need to mix a little bit more of this flesh, unless it's still alive, which is unlikely, but it could be, because it looks like I didn't get to his neck here. Let's take a look at this. I love painting this stuff. It just brings that figure alive just nicely. And it's not even sealed yet, because it looks even better when it's sealed. His hair will look better sealed. It adds like an extra depth to it. Okay? We got shoes, and we've got the little arrows in the quiver to do. I think Essex wins when it comes to the width of the range, pretty much. pretty much. And honestly, the more I look at these Essex figures, the more I like them, because in the past I felt like they were always very stumpy, like their legs weren't long enough, and looks like a bit of the paint came off of this thing. So let's fix that quiver, because it's on the edge of the figure. So invariably when turning this thing around, we'll come back and touch that up before we're done. And sometimes got to do some repairs. It happens. But I don't even think that they're that stumpy looking anymore, because pretty much all figure ranges have something that may seem odd to them. And that just happens to be, you know, maybe the thing about Essex figures. That they are stumpified. And you could use different color fletching on the arrows, but I happen to like white. I think it looks nice. Stands out nicely. Let's just use straight white. All right, now we'll go. Let's do shoes before we do anything, the other thing. Let's just go ahead and do brown. I don't really want to make them black, and just a little bit of pop of color down there would be nice. And other people use the popsicle sticks. I like to paint one figure at a time, and I pretty much can get anywhere that I need to, and that's what works for me. Then I don't have popsicle. What am I supposed to do with pennies if I don't glue these guys on pennies, right? What good are pennies? And it's not like I'm using new pennies. I recycle these things. And now we just paint the bottom of this quiver here that I rubbed up against. It happens occasionally. Okay, this fellow's done now. You guys can take a look at all of them. These are the 6 figures that are going to go on the 2 fast bow stands. And the 2 uniform figures, maybe they were part of a unit that all had the same uniform, and they went and formed this irregular fast bow stand, and well, it's the only shirt that they had to their name. So now these 2 figures I said earlier when I started are really similar to each other. So I'm going to take the darker figure, which is this one, and we're going to tinker with him a little bit. All right, we're going to paint the inside of his helmet a different color, probably white, just make him stand out a little bit. All right, so we're going to come in here. Close that out on me. Don't know where I was putting that down. I think it was here. Okay. And then we're going to add white. I did this with the Normans and the Spanish. The reason I didn't do it with this army is, in my world, these are kind of more commoner looking guys. Okay, so now he looks a little bit different. Well, they have different color hair too than this one. Okay, so here we have the 6 figures for the 2 fast bow stands. And of course, you know, we're going to do something like, you know, these 2 uniform guys are in 2 different units, right? These 2 guys that are just similar, they'll be in 2 different units. And then this guy will be with him, and then he'll be with him, or something like that. That's kind of how the split will be, which, you know, we'll make that determination when we go and glue them down, but anyhow. Anyhow, this is, I enjoy painting these figures that are not too exciting looking, I should say, because they do paint up well, and they will look better than they do right now when they're sealed and stuff. So, all right, we're going to set these guys off to the side because they're done. We'll let them dry a little bit, and then we're going to roll into spraying them and stuff like that, which we'll do that off camera and stuff. I don't have a film crew that can follow me around. I got a video that I did a couple months ago. A lot of people were having issues with their spray sealant, and didn't really know how they were going to. So I did a video on showing them, you know, how I seal things, because maybe it would help somebody. Maybe it hasn't helped anybody, but I made the video just the same. I'm going to put away some of these paints because you can see one of the issues that I have. See if I can turn this thing around. Is that, all right, let's turn this so I can, no, let's turn it this way so I have full rotation. Got it. All right. And now I can loosen this up and go this way. You can see, let's see if I can get this in the right direction. I am taken over by paints and such. All the paints have come out to play, so we need to put that stuff away so that we can have some space to work in. And that usually happens to me several times. It's kind of annoying that I always get encroached by the paints. And if you don't stop what you're doing and put them away, you're going to be working on a tiny little corner of your workspace. And, you know, not the best situation. Grays. Browns over here. Just makes it easier to pick out different colors. I'm not really sure how long I've had this particular arrangement. Maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years. I've been really happy with it. It works for me. And at the time, I mean, now there's more options for these paints, but these little cubby holes work really well for me. And hold on, that color go over there? It does not. Goes over here. All right. This is a light color. Coat the arms go in there. Coat the arms go in there. 2 more browns. Bronze goes there. Okay, now we have a little bit better workspace before. So it's not perfect, but anyhow, you get the idea. All right, so I'm going to go and we're going to water this down because I think this, we don't need to throw this away yet. It's got a big workspace we can still work with. I'm going to leave this here. We're going to wet this and be right back in a jiff. All right. So what I've started doing with this is I've actually been leaving the wet palette a little bit wetter than I've done in the past, just for longevity purposes. It's pretty, I don't know if you can tell that, it's pretty damn moist. And we're just going to set this right back on it and hopefully we get enough. Cat Roger, welcome. Good afternoon. Is it this afternoon? In about 17 minutes it will be. Happy Sunday to you. We're going to set this on here, and hopefully we won't pick up any of the paint on our fingers and transfer it somewhere else. And let's grab a friend like, this should work. Let's get all this to contact the, I got a couple other figures to paint on here. I don't need to switch this thing out. It's silly to be wasteful when you don't have to be. Okay, we should be good with that. All right, so Saloy, skirmishers, a lot of really boring looking guys. 12 figures to be exact. And after I'm done with this, I got an artillery crew and a fast horde and the commanders. And it's really tempting to work on this guy. It's really tempting to work on the artillery piece and the crew. But that stuff is a whole lot of fun. The most fun unit to paint is the artillery. You get to make little cannonballs and everything. All right, so let's make sure we have 12 so we don't have a snafu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, let's look at the different poses that we have to see how many we have of each one. Okay, that guy's got a helmet and like fur around him. This guy has a fur hat, and that's the only thing fur he has. Okay, this is fur hat and fur coat. This guy is one of these. There should be like 4 poses in here, I think. This is the same pose as one of the guys had in the other army, so I don't think there's too many of those. There might be a second one. He's got no fur. This is fur hat, fur coat. Helmet, fur coat. This is just a fur hat. this guy is just a fur hat. This guy is fur hat, fur coat. This is helmet, fur coat. This is fur hat, fur coat. And this guy's fur hat, fur coat. Okay, so here's the different poses. This guy's exactly the same as 4 of the 6 guys I just got done painting. So we're not going to do him next. Okay, enough of that. That can wait a little bit. All right, we're going to do these 3 guys that all have just a fur coat on them. Yeah. Why? Because they're easy. And they have a minimal amount of stuff on them. So they should paint fairly fast. Now we're not going to paint all 3 of them at the same time. That would be something I don't do. I don't do that because it takes a little longer to have something to show for it. I'd rather have something to show for it immediately. So let's make sure we didn't miss any black, and we did. We've probably earned a new black here. So let's go ahead and put it here in the center so we can access it. All right. One moment. Bestest and brightest brush. All right. And of course, we're going to paint every one of these figures before we put any of them on a stand. I don't mean the fast bow, I mean all these skirmishers. They'll all be painted, and that way we can divvy up who's going to be on what. Kind of like what we did with Light Horse. Even using the Vallejo primer, you still have spots sometimes that just don't get paint, but a lot less than using other products. So I'm very happy with that. This stuff right here, the surface primer from Vallejo, covers really, really well. Still not sure how durable it is, but you know, I'm not going to really put my guys through the ringer and be rough on them. So I don't really have much of an idea how durable it is, but I know it does apply really smooth. It's self-leveling. So you put too much in one place, it kind of evens itself out miraculously. Okay. All right. So, one of our candidates here, he's up next. Oh, still missed a black spot underneath there. Spot that'll probably stay black because it's all the way down there in the shadows. No need to do that. Okay, so we're going to give this guy a tunic. Let's give this guy a tunic that is this color as a base. This is German World War II beige camouflage, or as I like to call it, Zeltbahn base. What that would be. Be the only camouflage that would be in that color on the German. Oh, we need to mix up more than that. Don't make me drop one of those mixing balls in here, because I will. I only have have like 94 of them left. They come in a batch of 100. I don't know how the hell you would use 100 of them. Something's really got to go. A lot of things have to go sideways for you to use 100 of them. I was going to take the time and actually open every single bottle up, drop one in there, and move on, but I don't see it addressing the issue unless it needs to be on a bottle per bottle basis. All right, here's my Zeltbahn color here. And paint the whole tunic in this color. Mixing balls are the best invention in history ever. They are. Until, and this isn't supposed to happen, I don't think, until one of them oxidizes and it changes all the color of your paint inside. Now, I've never had that happen. I would imagine that it would be able to happen. But, yeah. At first, you're like, man, these are expensive, but they last a long time. I may only have 90 left, but I got a bunch. And, yeah, they are a good invention. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we did the test with a light horse on the new basing material, and I think it pretty much confirmed the fact that it turned out just fine. It was similar to the other one. It was a little grainier, but I think it turned out, in some ways it's better. It lays flatter than the previous one, but it takes about the same amount of time to dry. I think it turned out fine, and yeah, no, rest of the army will be based in this manner, so I look forward to doing that. All right, so the tunic here, got the first coat on them. Now what I should do is, before this stuff gets discontinued, go and buy like 10 bottles of it. Before this, we stopped making it because it's not sustainable. Yes, my hobby that takes forever, the basing material is ruining the environment. Yeah, okay. Never mind the pollution or trash in the river. There you are, Rick. Good morning to you. Good morning? Yeah, it's morning for you. 1, 2. You're on Mountain Time, I think, or are you on Central? You're one of those two. Rick and the million games. I don't know how you keep all those rules straight. Well, one thing's for sure. If you don't film your games, you could play all the games wrong and nobody would know, right? It's frustrating to play stuff wrong. And as long as you're not doing it on purpose. I don't think you are. We're all going to make mistakes. So this has turned out to be a nice drab color. It doesn't do it justice. You guys can't see what I can see. Subtle little folds, and they look a lot more noticeable. But I'm just glad it's on 1080p and not 720 like we had to what I had to do for a long time. 720 just doesn't get the point across. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I need to get a refill. Okay, I need to get my Arnold Palmer that I mix with water, half and half. That way I get some water intake. And we're going to go and spray these 6 figures. Because in about an hour, they'll be ready to get the brush on coat. Because I'm not waiting 24 hours. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I will get a clipboard. What I use to take those things out there. Spray them. I don't have a clipboard in here. Get a refill on this. Then I'll be back and let's shoot for 3 minutes. Shoot it back in 3 minutes. And that way we can start working on this other step, because I'd like to have these guys based today. That'd be pretty cool. I really want to see what the infantry looks on here. So stay tuned, folks. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. We'll let those dry out there. And, oh man. Okay, this can deal with that later. Not a critical message. Okay. Finally getting to sit and paint after call-outs this morning. Is that like a shout out? Help me, my internet's down. Oh man. Now hopefully you don't get any more. I know it's cold there. I just stepped outside. I opened the garage door. What happened here? Why am I getting a notification? Let's make sure that... No? Something about an audio bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. Well, I didn't know. I didn't open anything. Stream health is excellent. I don't know. Let me know if you guys don't hear anything, or I guess, I don't know, maybe you thought I went silent or something like that. But open the garage and do some spraying. Beautiful out there. Just absolutely gorgeous. According to this, it's 49 degrees. Sunny. Yeah, it's not a cloud in the sky. What am I doing inside painting? What am I doing inside painting? All right. So we're up to this point on this color. Let's just brighten it up to white from here. Let's start adding white to it and give him a couple more folds on this guy and give this peasant more folds. That's what these guys are. They're just armed peasant with a bow. Just got my Gauls, and I will get painting a bunch of their archers. You know, at some point I'm going to do some kind of a Germanic Gallic barbarian army. Regardless that I don't like Warband. It doesn't matter. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean I'm not going to use them. I'm just going to be, not surprised when they leave me hanging in the wind. Kind of like knights have done me recently. But, I expect that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean I'm not going to paint them. The excitement for painting something does not necessarily correlate with how good something does. Because you can always play an event where everybody has those crappy troops that leave you hanging out in the lurch. So... all right, this guy needs... Oh, this guy has some different... He's got like you could barely make it out. One of the things when you got to figure out is when you paint these guys is exactly what's on the figure. He's got like those little wrappings and stuff on his shoes, almost Viking-like. So we're gonna make sure that we just paint the top part of the pants. And for this guy, I feel like I want to do a dark blue. So we're going to get a blue. We're going to darken it up. That's what we're going to do with this guy. Ah, here's the same blue. I hate this blue. I hate this blue because look at the color here, right? Nice and bright. Almost looks like a French blue, right? And then you open it, and it's... Well, it looks very gray. You guys can't tell it, but it looks very, very gray here. So we're not going to use that one. As a matter of fact, I'm tired of pulling that one out of the lineup. So we're going to take this one at the very bottom, move it towards the top, and then push this one towards the bottom. I hate that blue. I can work with it. I'm just, I want something with a little bit more tint that I can tinker with. So, damn those gorgeous looking knights. They are beautiful. They are beautiful. That's more important to me. I'm more important. It's more important to me that I like how they turn out than how they do in battle. Yeah, those damn Russian knights. But the other thing that's happened is in the last couple of years, I didn't realize I needed to do this. I've been using, these are my regular glasses, so I wear contacts. But I've been having to play with readers, and I get to experience my figures. They look better close up. Well, they look great like this because I'm nearsighted as hell. But if I have my contacts in, I got to use readers when I'm looking at stuff on the computer and stuff like that. So I decided to bring my readers. I don't know, probably about a year ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my figures look. The figures look so much. Everybody's figures, not necessarily mine alone. The battlefield looks so much better. So I'm enjoying the games a lot more, being able to see the intricacies of what it is that we're actually pushing around. And let's open this thing up. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's really annoying as somebody who's been severely, I don't know, fairly nearsighted their entire life, to all of a sudden you get to that age and then, you can't see things up close either. Which is why if I had done, I'd say 5 years ago, I was just painting in 20/20 vision, I'd be able to read your comments down here at the bottom. But now I'm like, all I see is a blur and some kind of a happy face or something. So I've got to put my glasses on to see exactly what's on there. Busy working on a Hyksos chariot repaired by Black Hat. Found your vid on the chariot reins. I'm going to try it. Had to make wheels. New axle. I'm becoming a proper chariot mechanic. I'm telling you, chariots look really good when they're done. They really do. The biggest challenge with them isn't the multi-parts you have to do and even putting the reins on them and everything. It's just getting them to fit on that damn 40x40 stand. And usually what helps me is I'll take the, you can't change the length of the horse. You can't change the length of the chariot. But what you can change is the length of the bar that comes out from the chariot. So what I try to do is bend it. And some of them it's probably supposed to be straight, and I'll actually bend it, put like a little S in it. That'll shorten the distance of it. And then you can squeeze the chariot and it'll fit on the stand proper. If there's no way to get the figure on the stand proper, make sure that it's lined up on the front nicely. Because there's nothing worse than having a stand when you go into combat with someone that won't be able to fit front to front. You want to make sure that you can fit something to its front. And then if there's a little bit of overhang, let the overhang be on the back. Because it's real easy to just say, like if you come in with another one of your troops behind him, easy to say, oh, well, he's right up against him. But it's more disrupting to how everything looks on the battlefield when you have troops like this that can't touch, because you've got your horses are overhanging too much on the front. So make sure that the troops can fit flush head to head, which is really annoying that Mitch has that Scottish army. They have their pikes out like at 45 degrees or maybe 60 degrees or something like that, and they can't have another unit fit next to them. So when they go into close combat, you got to turn them backwards just so they can mesh. They don't mesh in well with them. But he bought the army from somebody else, and that may have been a reason why he sold the army. The person sold the army. He's tired of dealing with those damn Scotsmen not being able to mesh with their opponents when they're in close combat with them. But if you're going to have overhang on the back. Ideally, don't have overhang, but it's not always possible. You gotta tinker with them a little bit. But that's, I think, the most frustrating part for me for the chariots. But they are a multi-step type thing. All right, so we've got the blue pants here. Can't see it because, I need to move this way. Let's make sure I'm not backwards. I don't want people to think that I'm left-handed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm extremely right-handed. I don't want to pretend I'm something I'm not. Notice at 40 by 40, the horses were over the front, so the pole arched is the trick. Cheers. Excellent, yeah. I mean, that works for me. I guess you could probably trim the pole too. That would work. God, never thought about that. Oh well. It's just a representation. I've got the next chariot army that I have to do is I've got what are these little? Am I shedding and don't know it? What are these? The next chariot army I have to do is Assyrians, and the Assyrians are by a museum, and they're really wonky looking because the horses are really small. They almost look like greyhounds. So again, you don't need to go like, okay, I'm just gonna replace all the horses with horses that are the right size. You just deal with it. It's just a representation of what the figures are supposed to look like anyways, and just move on. I guess somebody has replaced the horses on them, but this guy's just got almost like shorts on. Okay, he's almost has like board shorts on, and then we will paint the bottom part as little wraps on them, almost like crisscross puttees. And now, isn't that how you pronounce that? Those things that they used to use, a lot of the troops in World War I that have like almost like the mummy wraps on their on the lower half of the lower third of their legs. Puttees. Prussian blue. That's what this color is. All right, where's my white at? These are fine figures, but I wouldn't want to buy this army in a DVA army pack because, for instance, this is this figure in particular. This is a nice figure. It fits the army, but I don't want 24 of them in the exact same pose. Not for these irregular troops, and you could get that. Now, there's some people that say, well, I've had problems with army packs in the past, and I just contact Essex and they trade them out for me. I say, yeah, but that's a pain in the ass. So I would rather just buy individual packs and do the mix in how I want to. And I don't mind having extra figures. That doesn't bother me. Then you get to build them whatever. The one fear, and I've come close to this being a problem, I forget which one it was. I ordered individual figures from somebody, and went ahead and got a couple extra ones. Because sometimes you get things in the mail and they're miscast. Like guys missing like an arm, like here at the forearm is cut off. It's unusual, but it's even happened to me on Zyston. I've ordered figures from Zyston, and a couple of the figures were missing like a whole part of an arm. Something that's not really repairable. And if you have extra figures, then you just don't worry about it. You just use a different guy. Your first test to build and paint will be Victrix Celtic chariots. I am going to everything with 28 millimeter. Good luck. It would take too long for me to paint. But options are good. Different scales are good. Victrix are plastic. Some people like plastics. I don't care for plastic, but it's good to have different things for different folks. The consumer wins when you have options. So I'm a big fan of that. 28 millimeter would just take me way too long to paint. I had to spend like 12 hours on a figure. This is too many figures for that. Maybe if I did Saga or something like that. I never gotten a chance to play Saga. I think I would like it, but now that they've expanded outside the Dark Age. Dark Age England is kind of boring for me. I know lots of people, lots of the viewers are from the UK, and that's kind of a more popular thing there. But Dark Ages England just doesn't interest me at all. With that said, I am looking forward to building the pre-feudal Scots, but I'll be fighting other people that aren't necessarily, their neighbors that are almost dressed nearly the same, so that kind of thing. But no, I haven't got a chance to play Saga. I wouldn't mind playing it, but I'm not going to go buy the rules and learn them on my own. I have enough on my plate, so to speak. Let's go ahead and get this face out of the way. Doom in the face. How long have we been on here? Thank God my headache is long gone. Now we're in 52 minutes. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to come back. Ideally, I'd like to paint long enough for those figures I just sprayed to come back and paint them and seal them, and then for that to dry and then goop them on the stands. I'd like to be able to do that in this session. We'll see if that's possible. Seems that I can't write English anymore. I meant that my first test to build and paint a chariot will be the Victrix one. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. You start typing things and you get things in the wrong order, and I don't think the biblicals look good in 20mm scale somehow. They just don't transfer scaled up. Maybe it's because they don't have a lot of detail on them, and so you have a lot more empty space to try to fill up with stuff like maybe designs, and a lot of those ancient armies just don't have a lot of design clothes. I don't know, maybe that's it. Yeah. I don't know. I won't do 28s. It used to be I didn't like there weren't any 28mm figures I like. That's not the case. There's some awesome stuff out there. There's well, I can't think of the manufacturers right now because I'm not really in the know of that. But there's Artisan and there's all kinds of manufacturers that I really like how they look, and it would probably paint up fine. I just don't have the time commitment to A, start over, and then B, it just take too long to paint them. I need to get more things done. So it used to be that I didn't like all this stuff. There just wasn't any variety. Now they're doing a really good job of filling in the different variety and stuff for it, but it's not really geared for me. And it's not like I'm going to paint bigger figures. And well, I can just paint them in colors and dip them. Like, I'm not going to take figures that are more expensive and more detailed and do a less detailed painting job on them. That defeats the purpose. So that's where I'm coming from anyways. So I'm the exception. I'm sure that a big pull of the 28mm, I know that the wargaming crowd is getting older. So they need bigger figures to see better, but and maybe pulling some of those people into historicals that are maybe used to doing things with Warhammer 40K. But neither one of those two things really are an appeal for me. I'm not a 40K player. I've never played it, and that's just I mean. If I painted 28, I'd still have to take my contacts out, so it's not really that's not really any excuses for me. But I'm glad that they have other scales. But then they have other scales too, right? There's like a 12mm or something like that, 12s and 10s, 6s. I'd do 6s and stuff if there was better figure variety, and but it's just not there yet, and I don't know that it's gonna. A couple of new companies have come, but it's kind of a stagnated scale in that there aren't new people coming out with stuff for that. But I like how the 6s look. The problem with 6s, I can see, is that once you got your figures painted and you want to put them on a stand, it's going to be really hard to get the goop in between the figures because it's just so darn small. So, But I've seen 6mm stuff that looks really, really nice with Napoleonic stuff and different formations and stuff on the stand. Yeah, it's pretty cool, you know. All right, let's add a little bit more of this with this. Oh. Trying to salvage this old paint. No, I'm gonna have to put another drop of it. Yes, just like the Amorites, it's all rags, leather, and skin. It is. It is, and I really like how my Amorites turned out because I looked at the figures and they're really uninspiring looking for the most part. And just like my Irish, I think I was able to make them look interesting, you know, and make them also look that if I painted one of their enemies, that I would be able to make their enemy interesting as well and not look exactly like the Amorites, you know. Kind of like these guys. These guys look like shit. I mean, what they're wearing, you know, they're not very exciting. It's like nobody says, "Oh, peasants with fur hats. I can't wait to paint them." You know, no, you get excited about painting guys that look cool with helmets and stuff like that. You know, individuality. But you know, a bunch of guys that are just wearing stuff you could wear. You know, that you probably have in your closet. Yeah, not real exciting, but when you take something that's not really exciting like that and you're able to make them interesting, it's really satisfying. It's really satisfying to be able to do that. So, therefore, I really like my Irish. I think I would like the pre-feudal Scots for the same reason. I like the Amorites. I like these peasantry type looking guys. As it's a challenge to make them look interesting. I feel like my command stand on my pre-feudal Scots ought to have a dog too. I like having the freaking dog on the stand. That was cool. Get to make dog noises when you go into combat. You know, little things like that. Damn rights were meant. Well, I'm glad you liked them. I did too. And you know, that's the thing. That's the thing about Essex figures. Essex makes decent figures, but they have kind of a bit of a blank canvas to them. Whereas if you just paint what's there, they look bland and they look like they don't have enough stuff. But you know, if you add detail to the bow casings and things like that, you can kick them up a notch. You know, but they just kind of give you like a blank canvas. And if you just kind of do that's why if you look at the pictures that they have on their website of their figures painted, they're kind of uninspiring. You know, they're not bad looking figures. They're just uninspiring because they just kind of like all kind of look the same. But man, they're actually all right. They're actually all right. Now, some of the older figures of you get, or some figures that have been cast a long time ago, they have the old alloy, which means they're really bendy. So as soon as I see that, I want to replace their spears and lances and stuff like that with metal pins, so I don't have to worry about them again. Because there's nothing worse than making really good looking figures, stuff you're happy with, and about a year, 6 months down the road, you've got to replace the pins because one of them broke inadvertently in a game because they're just super bendy. The alloy is too soft. There's too much lead in it. So. But they have really good paintable faces. ship really fast too. Even here to the States. You know, I had an order that was going in through them when the pandemic started, and it was delayed, not from them. It was stuck at Heathrow for about a week and a half. Because historically, Essex, you'll order something on a Monday and you'll get it the following Monday. So it's about a week. Yeah, so it's just as good as anybody in the States. So, peasant with fur hats are not very exciting. I can see them every time I go outside during the wintertime. There you go. There you go. Peasants abundus. We're going to give this guy a black beard. And his hat is going to be some form. Let's go ahead and do his bow now. That'll help bring him back up to life also a little bit. Let's grab, maybe we have the bow color over here. And we did it with black the other one, so let's keep it going. You could do dark brown as well. Black gives you a little bit more contrast. Just paint his bow. Yeah, this is really mindless at this point. But I'll tell you what, talking about what I'm doing as I'm doing it really helps keep me on track. Same thing if you watch any of my game videos. I like to talk about I like to do it all the time. I'm sure I miss it frequently. But I like to talk about why I'm doing things and why, because it's fun. It's fun to, I call it self-coaching. Not talking to yourself, but it's self-coaching. And I think it's good for people that are watching the videos. So. So I don't want to jinx myself. Not that I believe in that shit. But it seems like the feed's a lot better now than it is for early in the morning. Not as glitchy. And it's better on Sundays too, so. I'm glad. We don't want things to. We don't go through all this trouble, and then if there's a problem with the feed, it doesn't benefit anybody. When we're done with this figure, we're going to go in the garage and bring those ones we sprayed back in. See how they're doing on the dry level. Okay, let's get some white over here. Fair number of you people on here. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with me. Appreciate it. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit more contrast. Okay. We've got hair slash beard, hat, accoutrements, and the shoes and the wraps. All right. Thanks for the likes, folks. Much appreciated. Hopefully you guys are finding some value, even if it's just entertainment, having me in the background while you're doing, honeydew list, whatever it is. Help you get through the list. Help you get through the day. Talk radio without the politics. Get this a little bit more accessible there. Good coating there on the black. And then we'll highlight that with white a little bit. Nice change to catch a stream while I'm actually doing a hobby. Perfect. This kind of live painting and chatting things are a great force that pushes my painting forward nicely. Yep. Well, to be honest with you, I do it for me. It keeps me on track. If I was not filming myself, I'd probably find other reasons to look into other stuff and wouldn't get anything done. So I think it's wonderful that it benefits someone else as well. So welcome. Thanks for coming by. I said I'd try to do this Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Obviously, normally not this late. This is kind of an unusual circumstance. Usually from like 5 to 8 in the morning, Saturday and Sunday, consistently, as long as I'm not going out of town. And been unsuccessful in the past, Monday through Friday very often, but we sometimes get a few of them in there. So this is how we're going to get stuff done. I'm not going to. I have zero interest in painting while I'm not interacting with you guys. That's the only thing. So if I'm not interacting like this, I'm just not interested in painting. I just get too bored. It's just too boring. Painting alongs are a good thing. Best idea to come out of COVID. Well, the best thing to come out of COVID is people that are able to work from home. But unfortunately, I think some of that is probably getting taken away from you guys. I mean, I'll never be able to work from home at my job, unfortunately, but that just saves on fuel and stuff. That's more time you can spend with your family, not stuck in traffic. But I think a lot of those gains may have been reversed now, but hopefully some of you guys are able to work from home. I mean, think of how much time you spend commuting. That's time you don't have to anymore. You can keep your home at whatever the hell temperature you feel like, and nobody can say anything about it. You don't have coworkers that are like, "I'm too cold." So we're gonna do this guy's fur hat, and for some reason we want to do it brown. Well, the reason is that he has kind of a grayish shirt, so I don't want to do gray on gray. It looks like I was lazy and only had like 2 paint colors. So we're gonna do brown and lighten that up and see how it looks like. Like as always, if I don't like how it turns out, we can always tinker with it, but it doesn't happen that often, honestly. So. The best thing that came out of this, I'll tell you what, is if something happens one day, and I don't foresee it happening anytime soon, but ever it gets to a point where I have to move away from here, I'm not worried about not having a gaming partner because I'll still have, we'll still be able to make videos and stuff like that. So we'll find somebody else or do solitaire games or something, but I wouldn't be so heartbroken. Not that I want that to happen anytime soon. I'm just saying, I did have a non-partner for a long. I was without one for a long time. A gaming partner, probably 10 years, and that was no fun. Didn't get a lot of painting done then, but as long as we got the internet, we shouldn't have a problem with that. No matter where the hell I may be. All right, let's add a little bit more white. We need a little bit more contrast. See, we started with brown, but we still ended up with a gray color. But it's a different gray color than if I had consciously made an effort to make it gray from the get-go. Some brown undertones here. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second, and hopefully it'll come out on the video. I like how it turns out. Interesting, yet boring at the same time. That's what we're going for. Color costs a lot of money. These guys get a lot of money. They're not going to be spending it on fancy clothes. Okay, let's go ahead, before we do the shoes, let's go ahead and do his bows and stuff. His bow case. Not bow case, quiver. Sorry about that. What I said was not what I meant. What's that called? I misspoke. And you can even tinker with it like I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take this color and I'm going to add white to it now. So it looks duller. Than that saddle brown that I'm using. A lot duller. And then we'll highlight it again with some more white. And a little bit more. And then we'll use the arrows. The internet's a wonderful thing. It makes so many things possible. One example of this kind of things, or even remote playing Saga. One YouTube channel did battle reports on virtual tabletop. I got that virtual tabletop, and other than it almost burning up my computer because my computer got really warm running it. I don't know. I mean, I guess that if that's the only way I could play games, maybe, but Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to have that. I think it was just nice because, you know, the wargaming community is very, very niche type thing, and you're gonna have a very difficult time finding, especially if you're playing like historicals or something like that. In any town, really, to find historical players, and it's difficult to find people, and then maybe you find people and you're not compatible with them. You know, you're playing against somebody who's always whines or something like that. Nobody wants that. Well, I guess some people want that, but like in my early gaming days, I had a friend of mine who nobody liked him because he whined all the time. And he liked to argue, and he really didn't rub me the wrong way, but I know he rubbed some of the other people the wrong way, but there's all kinds. There's some people that you play with, and they're never happy, even when they are winning. It's never a good day for them. If you're doing a hobby and it's creating you that much trouble, you need to find a different hobby. Or, you know, you can go be miserable with somebody else. But this is a worry-free environment as far as I'm concerned. All right, time to do those puttees. I know exactly the color I want to use for them. I'm going to use Skeleton Bone from Army Painter. And I'm not a fan of Army Painter paints, the Danish paints. Just like I said, coat the arms have flow really well. I find these don't. With that said, it doesn't mean I'm not going to buy anymore. They're not my first choice. They're not my first choice. But they do make some other colors that maybe some of the other ones don't have, and give you a nice starting point to modify them. Sorry, you were watching some football. That's something you don't have to have me worry about me. I'm never going to break off and watch sports. I used to watch the Olympics, but not anymore. Not for many years now. All right, this is the dark color here. We're going to paint everything in this color. We're going to highlight from there. Okay. Now, let's take. Question is, where did I even put that color? There it is. It's over here. That's the problem when you have so many things. You don't remember where you left something. Add a little bit more of that core color. And paint these. This brush almost doesn't have the skill set anymore to do this. You may have to replace it. And then we're going to go straight this color right here. You like to watch boxing. There's very few sports I follow. We used to wake up early and watch Formula One, and then we would drive the race in our Formula One game. So, we'd wake up 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and watch, say, Monaco, and then we would go race Monaco. Did that many years ago. That was fun. I don't mind sports games. I just feel like when I'm watching a sport, I'm not participating or anything. I don't know. It's just a little bit too removed for me. I'm the exception. Most people like watch sports. All right. Let's do some shoes, and then we can go check on the guys we sprayed. We'll do black shoes on this guy for contrast. There's enough brown things on him. All right, let's take a look at this guy. See what this plain Jane looking dude looks like. That's the purpose. He's supposed to look like he's not made of money. Yeah. Only 11 more to go. All right, let's go grab those guys we painted. Blood Bowl is a brilliant sport. I've never played it. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, let's see what these guys look like. They're going to be glossy. Let's hope they're not sticky. Nope. Nope. Nope, and they're not frosty either. Nope. Okay. That's how all those things end up on the couch. I just throw them over there. I ain't got time to fool with that right now. So here's these 6 glossy dudes. Now what we're gonna do is, I don't care if it's supposed to dry for 24 hours. We don't have time for that. We're gonna grab Tester's Dull Coat. And we're gonna coat these guys. You played Blood Bowl on the computer a few times. It's a neat game, very fun. I didn't know they had it on the computer. Try with a human opponent. It's really not bad. You know what game's brilliant on the computer? That new BattleTech game. And it's a couple years old. If you're a fan of the BattleTech miniatures game from the late '80s, that game is wonderful. It looks good. It plays just like the board game. You know, there's so much stuff to do in it. You know, you can go on missions. You can find weapons. You can improve your mechs. You know, you can manage people in it. It's so diverse. And we used to play BattleTech a long time ago. And even though I'm not a fan of 2D6 systems, the bell curve type thing, I think it's a really fun game. It's a really fun game. The one made by Hairbrain Games or Hairbrain Studios, one of those. It's a beautiful game. It looks good. So. Alright, so we're going to take this stuff right here. And we're going to give these guys a coat. Now the thing with this is you got to go quick over them. You can't, the thickness that you apply this isn't important. You can actually put this a lot thicker than you would think you'd be able to get away with it. But you can't go over it. So in other words, you don't want to come in 10 seconds afterwards and touch something up you just put this on, because it'll pull the paint off. It gets tacky really fast. And this stuff is affordable. And it is very, very flat, which is what I want. Okay, he's done. And this is actually something I saved a step on, because I used to spray flat as well. And then I put this on. So now I've just skipped the spray flat stuff. And the reason why I skipped the spray flat stuff is it just isn't available like it used to be. You know? It's difficult to get a hold of that stuff. So they made their own decision for me. By not having the stuff available. And you can go thick. You can come in here and just slather this stuff on. You just, like I said, you can't go over it. You'll pull the paint off. How do I know this? It's happened. It has happened. Last one. Okay. This stuff doesn't smell too strong. You know, when you use paints that basically have no smell, it's very noticeable when you start using a product that does have a smell. Because you're like, huh, that's kind of strange to be smelling my hobby. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab the two bases. These guys don't sit on. Go over to Lithuania. Need a couple of 15s. Ball size. What do we got here? Magnets are 15s. Here's all the 20s. These magnets for 20s. Getting kind of low. You know what? I better do a count here. I probably don't have enough to do this army. Oh, this stuff needs to go too. We don't want to leave this on account. I think I read somewhere Litko is in the process of moving, so is this going to be 2 of these, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like I'm 1 short. We're gonna have to order. We're gonna have to order stuff from Litko. Oh darn. The Russian collusion's back. See ya, comrade. Battletech rules still good. No new additions, just prints. Yeah, I haven't played the miniatures game in a long time. That was the first miniatures I sold were my Battletech miniatures. I hadn't used them in like 10 years. And I just got rid of them. Guess I should have kept them around, but who knows. Sold them on eBay. The first stuff that I sold on eBay. They were just dry brushed. The old Ralph Parther ones. Had about 30 of them, I think. Pretty sure they were primed black and then dry brush with different colors on top. And hadn't really thought about that stuff. Maybe for 10 years, 20 years. So I get this Battletech game on the computer and it reminds me exactly of that. Oh, that's that mech. I remember what those guys are. I remember, you know, brought back some fond memories. Okay. I'm going to cut the edge of these magnets off because I want the stands to fit flush next to each other. Okay, use the heavy duty magnets on 3mm stands. It's my preference. So, the time that they didn't make anything, they didn't make the thinner ones that they have now. So, painting Chasseurs à Cheval in De la Garde with Mameluke Squad AB miniatures. I've never painted any AB miniatures, and they make lots of stuff for 20mm. I just hadn't got around to doing it. I have a few. I have tank riders and tank commanders and stuff like that. I am using laser cut bases from Litko, yeah. I can bring you a few bases. It's not bases I need, it's magnets. And no, I want to get the heavy duty ones because I want them to grip more, but thank you. So you are coming tomorrow. Haha, excellent. I'll send you a message after this paint video is. We can figure out what it is that we're going to do. Although, hopefully that army you're working on is done because that's going to be a friggin' hoot. Assyrians fought just about everyone in the near. You're doing any of their enemies? Ratu, Babylonia, Judea, Egypt? Nah, probably not. I don't have. I've had the figures for a long time. My first trip to Historicon in 2006, and my second trip in 2007, there was a vendor there called, I believe it was called Colonial Connection, And this guy had museum miniatures, which I think at that point I didn't have any of, and he was selling them by the each. Well, that's, music to my soul is selling figures by the each, because I want to, I want figure variety and guys put in there that each one. You know what? We're having a conversation here. Let me go ahead and face the other stands here. Exactly. You know how many I need. There's going to be 6 more Saloy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 6th one. And so he was selling the figures by the each, and I think it was like 35 cents a foot and 50 cents a mounted or something like that. I think that's how much they were. And so I bought a few. And the following year, he was getting out of it and was selling by the each 17 cents a foot and like 35 cents a mounted, something like that. I picked up Assyrians, I picked up Mongols, I picked up Mamelukes, some of the Turk guys that I painted, all kinds of stuff from them, because when are you going to get that opportunity again, right? And yeah, but this guy, the first time I went there, I'm like, I think at the time there was not a museum person had museum miniatures in the States, so I'm like, hey, can I order from you? He's like, yeah, well, here's this form. I said, well, can I order through the internet? No. Okay. Can I pay with a credit card? No. He would only take cash in person or checks through the mail. And this is in 2006. I already had a PayPal account, and I can accept money from people. I mean, 2006 to me wasn't that long ago. But, they didn't have some things on there. I mean, there was no Facebook, right? But there was still, internet and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I never understood why he wouldn't take credit cards, and using the excuse that they charge me money is not an excuse, because just mark your stuff up 10%. They're not charging you 10% to use the cards. Now, maybe if you don't want to use them, if you don't want to do that business, but you need to make, as a consumer, I'm telling you, if you have a business as a consumer, you need to make it easy for people to accidentally buy a bunch of stuff. You can't put up all these walls, well, you need to fax in your order, or you need to, you lost me there, You need to make it easy for people to spend their money with you. And I don't write checks, and I certainly don't send something through the mail and then wait an undeterminate amount of time for someone to possibly receive said order in the mail and then cash check. And it's fraught with pitfalls as far as I'm concerned. We need a new X-Acto knife blade. This one can't use it for this detail stuff anymore. Now I'm going to just, careful, let's not kill myself here on camera. That's not good for viewership. Let me make sure that I don't have another one hanging out here. Because for whatever reason, you always end up with more stands than you do magnets. Here's 15s, 15 magnets, right? That's a big one for a camp. Here's 40 by 30s. Empty bag, you don't need to be in there. More 15s. Oh, I need to order some. Okay, no problem. I'll do that today. And I don't think I'm that low on anything else, so it might just be probably order 50 of them or something like that. Don't need to go crazy with 100. Reverse psychology, marketing. Look at all this cool stuff, but you can't have it. Yeah. I'm telling you, you need to make it easy for people to part with their money. And he wouldn't do credit cards either. Because the second best alternative is calling someone up and giving them the credit card number with an order, right? Because then you know that at least they have your order in and can start working on it immediately. But this whole send it through the mail and it takes a few days to get it, and then what if the person only checks their mail every third day? And now you've wasted a whole week and they still don't have your order to start working on it. That's just, no. That's two 1970s for me. So. What is it? Navor. Navor used to carry, who's those guys that I like? Roundway. Used to carry Roundway. You can't even call them. You have to fax them. They won't do internet. What's a fax cost to the UK from the US? I don't know. I don't care. I don't plan on ever doing it. If you could say, well, I can at least email you the order, right? Nope. I guess you just don't need business that badly. You know? And you think Phil Barker's set in his old ways. Whew. And it's a shame because they got a lot of cool stuff. You know? See, I think that's even worse than not having pictures of your figures online. Although that's inexcusable as well. You sell miniatures. You need to have unpainted, pictures of your miniatures. I mean, that's not too much to ask, is it? I mean, you already have the website. How the hell? That's the hard part. We got to order these soon because I heard a rumor that Litco was moving locations and it might slow down their order. So I don't want it to take too long to get these in. But realistically, one of these stands is optional. And it's something that you would use if you want to use them for Saloy silliness. But most of the time, they're only going to run around with five Saloy. Unless you're running with allies, and then you're only running around with 2 Saloy. I'm glad I looked into that. I don't want to find out in a week or so that I don't have the stand. So this is the one we're missing. Okay. All right. Yeah, and I like the heavy duty ones better. More grippage. AB figures are the gold standard. 18 millimeter though. Yeah, there's some 15s though that are every bit of 18. You know? All right. Where to next? Well, these guys are still drying. Let's push these guys off. Like this gun crew. The gun crew from Essex. This is the Eastern European gun crew. There's no figures of them online on the Essex site. It's inexcusable. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the peasants. Oops, my bad. I think there's pictures of them. Where's the gun crew? The gun crew's over here behind them. Go away, peasants. You too. And these are fine looking figures. There's no pictures of these guys online. And it's not like they just came out with the figures a little while ago. They've been out for ages. You know, these guys ought to be a hoot. Got some cannonballs running around here that we can, yeah, made them out of green stuff. So we'll put some of them on the bottom of the stand, and we can have a cannonball party. Some companies are bad for you to go to their shop and they don't have much stock, as they take loads of stock to shows. Yeah. Yeah, and then the opposite happens as well. You'll go to a show. Hey, where's your figures for such and such? Oh, we didn't bring those. We only brought the American Civil War line and the Napoleonics and this other thing. So I've seen it been done the other way around. Mike B uses Litco bases. I put a drop of super glue on base bottom to help hold a magnet. I don't have a problem with metal miniatures, but I find that plastic miniatures can pull the magnet off. Okay, I need to reread this. Use Litco bases. I put a drop of super glue on the base bottom to help hold the magnet. I don't have a problem with metal miniatures, but I find plastic miniatures can pull the magnet off. Oh, so you use Litco bases, but you don't use the Litco magnet bottoms, which actually cost more than the bases, oddly enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, because it's the surface area of this, I've never had this pull off from the bottom, ever. And, yeah, I don't expect that to happen either. Oh, when used with plastic miniatures, you use model 28 millimeter. Gotcha. Bigger figures. I gotta use the potty, and we need more beverage. I'll be right back. All right, back again. I guess the internet's behaving now. All right. All right, we got one skirmisher gun. many. How are these guys doing? You know, I think I can go ahead and base them. All right, give me 2 of these. All right, the most fun part, you know what that is? It's figuring out who's going to be on what stand. So let's get my file out here. I'll get that just in case. Sometimes I don't have to do it. I have to do that more often with Essex figures than other ones because Essex figures have very small, diminutive bases. And sometimes they tend to be a little on the top heavy side. And why are you saying there's a problem with the audio widget? Leave me alone. I think this is just creating an issue where there isn't one. Okay. So, here we go. Let's grab, I just switched out X-Acto blades. How funny. Well, I have another X-Acto knife around here. We're going to go ahead and install the older blade because we don't need a sharp one for what we're about to do. As soon as I find the base for it, here it is. And we're going to put this one back in. We don't want to use a fresh blade for this. It's unnecessary and wasteful. All right. So, now these are super glued down because I don't want them to accidentally come off. And the other thing is the super glue generally makes the base of these figures larger than it needs to be. Okay, so it'll actually help them grip a little bit. So we're just going to slide underneath the bottom and we're just going to wiggle and pop it off. And he sits relatively straight. Okay, so we may not need to file him down. There's one, and we'll put the pennies. The pennies will be recycled. And same thing, just come in and wiggle. And this is why I don't use super glue for anything because it's extremely brittle. And as soon as it gets kind of like a crack in the seal, it just comes right off. It has no tensile strength. So if there's any kind of wiggling or something like that, movement, yeah, see, look at this one. This one just completely came off. See, it made the little base a little bit larger by having a little bit of super glue on it. That's going to help in the next stage. Okay, this guy here is one of these Serbian-looking folks. Okay, same thing. He's sitting just fine. It's the horses that are really bad about coming off. Let's come in here and wiggle. Okay. You're going to be incorrigible a little bit. All right, you're good. Go in and wiggle. Now, I've got a container here where all my coins are in. We'll just recycle them. Oh, missed one. You find Uhu glue is the best for Essex figures. I don't know if they have that here. Now, I like to use the nuclear option when it comes to glue. We go straight for epoxy. Never have to worry about these poor bastards coming off. And you can actually get them off the stand because I did that. I ended up rebasing my French Ordnance Army. And all of my figures were epoxied down, and I was able to, not only was I able to salvage the figures, I was able to salvage the stands too. So, that much trouble. I think I got that on video. Yeah, maybe it was a while ago. It was a little while ago, maybe a couple of years ago. It changed the composition of the army, so. Alright, so we got our little piece of cardboard, which is the same as this. A great material, very useful. It's also very free. That always helps. I got a message here. Let's see what it says. Looks good, Joe. I don't know if you're still on, but I'll contact you later. We can pick what we're doing. Maybe we'll do a Wimp Wars or Yeah, Wimp Wars probably be good. I'd store this stuff upside down, but all manner of bad things could happen if I did that. Okay. Did that. Yeah, Wimp Wars would be good because you can get a lot of games in since the numbers are low. Come on. Here we go. I'm never buying epoxy in one of those tubes where you squeeze it and they both come out, because they never come out the same. One of the materials is actually always thicker than the other and doesn't come out equally. So you end up having to press them sideways and it never works out. And I like using this needle for the mixer because when I'm done, when this hardens, you just clean the needle off with an X-Acto blade and you can keep reusing it instead of using a tiny little piece of wood that ends up getting thrown away. All right, so here's the two stands. Let's divvy these up in two teams. So the first team has a guy with the green shirt. The other one has a guy with a red shirt. Two of these are very similar to each other, so they're going to be on opposite teams. Okay. Then this guy with the green shirt, and then this one with that one. Now, do I like this composition of these figures? Do I like this composition of these figures? I like that the guy that has kind of a greenish shirt is not in the same team as him. And this one can't be on the same one because they're very similar. So yeah, it's just a matter of, do I want this guy over here with this? Maybe. Yeah, I like that. So that's who's who. All right. So we're going to put this guy with a fancy shirt, we're going to put him on one edge over here. All right, we're going to put the fancy shirt guy on the other side. We're going to put him in the middle. And put this green guy over here. And put this other guy over here. Okay. And then over here, that bluish looking guy that kind of looks like this guy is over on the end. So we don't want to put this guy on the end there. We want to put him in the middle. And we'll put this guy back over here. And I want them to look a little irregular. Imposing. We want to make sure there's not any overhang, but we're going to have problems with them meshing with anybody else. So this is what they're going to look like. We'll let that set a few minutes, and then we'll start a gooping. And the new goop was successful. I'm happy with how that new goop that I had to go to, because there's availability of it. It's not being discontinued. And this is the Vallejo ground texture, so we're using this instead of the resin sand. So that's what we'll be doing, and obviously with our pile of rocks as well that we like to add on there for variety. Which manufactures the figures? They're Essex 15 millimeter. Does anybody have any experiences with Museum Miniatures Z figures? I just read the Iliad, and they have now I really like and they have few I really like, but I'm wondering if they make good stuff or not. They do. They're good. They're good. Joe has bought several of their figures, and they paid up nicely. Good morning from Sydney. Essex just so expensive. Are they? I thought they were one of the cheaper ones. I don't know, depends on where you are, probably. Remove more Russian collusion. Absolutely love the cavalry posts on Facebook during the week. Yeah, they turned out really well. Those are also Essex. They're hanging out right over here. Yeah, Essex makes they paint up well. They don't look like they're really inspiring, and then they paint up really well. Oh, always I gotta move them the wrong way. Like, yep, I gotta move these the wrong way. Yeah, so this will be 2 fast bow stands for this army. I don't know how I feel about the guy with a red shirt. Yeah, we'll let him go. He's going to be the exception. Nobody's going to have a red shirt in the skirmishers. I figure if somebody's going to have a colorful thing, it'll be one of these guys that's in the fast bow stands. And I looked them up. They legitimately wore red shirts, just like it did in the Armies and Enemies of the Middle Ages, Volume 2. Yeah. Joe, did you get that army done? If you did, we're on for tomorrow. I hope you can make it. How about doing a Wimp Wars with them? That sound okay? The Wimp Wars, and there should be 4 of us. If you're coming, there should be, it'd be you, Scott. I believe Scott should be able to make it. Myself and Les Mitch. Museum are nice, but some of the cavalry have very easy legs, so need to be careful when basing, as they can break. While playing DBA the other day, your name came up in conversation. Okay, I was told that you were involved or the principal behind the RRR variant of DBA. Yes. Yep. Yeah, I wanted to. That's really the period that I want to play is Renaissance, but there won't be a 3.0 version of it for a variety of reasons. First of all, the previous version, the RRR, was done when work was really slow in 2009. That's kind of the slowest year we've ever had in the 28 years, so I had less stress or whatever to do that. And it was also kind of a combination of a lot of different people's opinions. We were kind of doing stuff over the phone and email and stuff like that. And we were trying to shoehorn the entire DBR period into a DBA style game that really worked. Somebody had actually done the pike. It was called the Pike and Shot Extension. It was these 3 guys that was back in the DBA group. I forget what their names are. They're at the beginning of the DBR rules. That's really kind of extended. They didn't finish the job, and it was kind of, I extended and kind of took what they were doing and moved forward with it. We added a few things on there, like the separate general and stuff like that. But I really would like to have a Renaissance set of rules, but if that ever comes to pass, it'll be when I have a lot less on my workload, and I probably will not be using the same DBA engine. And what I mean by that is it's going to allow combat like this and not have to do the weird geometry that we have to do, because that's really kind of one of those things that I find really annoying for new players is that, things you can't just contact someone like this. It's got to be perfect contact, and it can't be like this. It's got to be like this. And all of those things don't really suit well to another game, especially when you're talking about a game that's going to have units like tercios. The only reason that they are all on different stands like that is because that's how DVR handled it. But if it was me, I would, you would have a tercio, and it would be based on something like this. Okay, and so you're going to have a lot of figures on here, probably like 16, maybe even more figures on here, and it's one stand, it's one unit. Well, when you go into combat with them, you should. How do you line it? You're going to have units that basically have different widths. Depending on what it is. So it's just a huge undertaking. Would it be cool? Absolutely. Would it be a lot of fun to play? Absolutely. Would I like to do it one day? Absolutely. The time's not here for it because painting for me is stress relieving. Working on rules is not. And if I stopped everything I was doing to work on DBR or whatever Renaissance thing, it wouldn't be RRR, it'd be called something else. Just kind of differentiate between it. I would be getting no painting done. So that means no more new armies for videos. And right now, that's kind of, I think, what we're the most useful doing is continuing to promote this set of rules and making new stuff for it and making videos and making painting videos and that kind of stuff is moving forward, not diverting into something that, you know, involves a lot of hours to get done correctly. And to be honest with you, my interest in the period is the 1500s. I'm not really interested in the 30 Years' War or English Civil War, and the period really kind of needs to be broken up into different areas. You can't, and that's what the problem is. I was watching somebody's battle report the other day. They played a couple of years ago, and of using the DBA RRR rules, and they were complaining that shot was too powerful. Well, the reason why shot's too powerful is you kind of have to make a shot that is representative of stuff of the late 1600s also. So yeah, Italian wars and 1600s are very different. So that's the thing. I've been kicking around for about 10 years when I was going to do it. It's not feasible to do it correctly. I'm not going to do it. I honestly am not really happy with how it all got shoehorned in, but I'm not going to do a rule set based on the DBA 3.0 engine, so to speak, because I don't think it's going to give the right period feel for it. And that's just from playing other games. Anyhow, so that's my long-winded response to that, but these are so awesome. Wish you still blogged these. Oh, on my blog? Yeah, I can't do that. I don't have time for that. You hardly get any people that check in there. So, you got to do whatever is going to have the most exposure. Yeah, Z-Range is nice. Have set of detail, a little low relief, however. Greek, Macedonian, Trojan. Weak legs on museum miniatures. Z-Range horse legs I found not be a problem. Facebook group, we're getting some pics of the figures you don't see for sale. I'll make sure you do it. Okay. Thanks for the tips on museum figures. Nice try. 15mm paint some point. This right, you need to send a separate apartment for the figures. Yeah. Yeah, we don't all have time to do everything. We don't have all time to do everything. So, there's other ideas we've kind of kicked around as well, but things need to slow down for work. And invariably, if we do any of that stuff, it's going to impact at least my production on painting. And I don't really, this is relaxing. Working on rules isn't relaxing. It's just kind of a chore, and, we'll make them and people may not like them, and that's fine. They're going to be free, and you're not wasting your money on them. And, as long as we're just like our painting, you may not like the choices of the colors that I pick, but, it's as long as I'm happy with it, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of people like to argue about stuff on the internet, and I'm not one of them. You don't like something, just move on, There's lots of things I don't like. I don't need to tell the people that I don't like I don't like your thing. Okay, who cares, right? But it's a ways off if it ever happens. That's a good retirement project. But I've thought about it a long time. First of all, I really couldn't move forward. I didn't have a computer. Now I have a computer. I don't want to do that. I mean, I got a really stressful job. So last thing I want to do is add more to that. So if I'm going to create any rules from now on, I want them to feel like you're playing the period when you're playing the period. DBA is a great game. I don't feel like you're playing the period when you're playing DBA. I think it's just a great game that you can accomplish things. It's fun. You can paint a bunch of different nationalities. On realism, I don't know. You play like the Mongols in this, and it doesn't feel like you made Mongol-like decisions. It doesn't feel right. You know, I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just stating it. So, I don't want to create a modification for, you know, pour my heart and soul into something, and then when you get right down to it, the engine, in my opinion, does not give you the right feel. I've just wasted my time. You know, so. And there's ways to get around these hurdles that supposedly are unsurmountable. We've done some play testing, but it is a hell of a lot of work, and I just don't have it in me right now. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there you have it. But with that said, it would be a DBA sized game equivalent, um, DBA size figure count for painting, pip based. I don't want to play any game where you don't have pips. And battlefield size about the same, so you're not playing on some huge field with a ton of troops. You want to play a bigger game, you could do double or triple if you want to. And yeah, that's what it is. So, but it should be able to feel like it should give you a better feel than DBA does. When you play a different army, you need to play them differently. You know, the Turks are going to play different than the Huguenots. If you guys are really interested in that Renaissance period and you have a computer and you're not opposed to computer games, there's a computer game that's been out a few times. It's really really cheap now. It's called let me think what it's called. Hold on, because it's changed names a few times. Oh, it's elusively called Pike and Shot. It's by Slytherin, and the main author of it is Richard Bodley Scott of Field of Glory fame, and it is a wonderful little game. And it gives you, in my opinion, gives the correct Renaissance feel for a lot of the battles. Now, it doesn't have pip mechanics, which means you can move anybody all the time, however you want. Probably my biggest gripe about it. And but I've played it a fair amount, and a lot of the inspiration for whatever rule set I come up with, if I ever do, would be, there's lots of rules that do things correctly, and there's some that just don't get things right, So I recommend that. It's very cheap. It's been out for maybe 8 years or something now. So when I bought it, it was like $10, and I bought the game before in previous versions. I played it on the iPad, but that was back in days when the iPad would run games, and they had the 64-bit apocalypse, and a lot of the games didn't transfer over. But I did get it on computer, and it is a fine game. It's certainly worth $10 for sure. And if you're interested in that Renaissance period, and it looks like you're playing like a DBA type game with 6mm figures. There's lots of little figures on the stand, and it plays really well. I highly recommend it. And maybe that'll whet your appetite for or satisfy you for that period. I highly recommend it. It's certainly worth $10. It's the worst thing that can happen. $10. You buy it on Steam and play it for less than 2 hours, and if you don't like it, just return and get your money back. Pike and Shot campaign's game now. Yeah, I've played a fair amount of it. It's a great game. It's a great game. Find all World War II games totally unrealistic rules. Give a decent game, but the rules, especially Flames of War, are not lifelike. Yeah, Flames of War is not. For us, those of us that are World War II nuts, Flames of War just does not do it. Doesn't do it. Now, they have some great resources. You know, you go to their website and they have all kinds of really cool paint scheme things, and you know, maybe they're geared for maybe people that are new to the World War II period. But as someone who's that was my main interest, and that's I'm a World War II gamer through and through. We just need a hell of a lot more than that, you know, a hell of a lot more detail. And yes, it's would be less playable, but it would be more satisfying. So same thing with what's the name of that? What's the name of that rule set? The Warlord one. Their skirmish Warlord set. I can't play that. That's just way too basic for me. You know, it's not geared for me. Bolt action. Bolt action is not geared for World War II nuts. You know, people that have a background of going back and playing things like close combat and advanced squad leader and stuff like that. I can't go to something like that. You know, it's just not my thing. So, the set of rules we use for miniatures is they're out of print now. It's called the Face of Battle. They're from Canada, and they're really good. I really like them. And it takes a long time to get anything done, which is its downfall. But it scratches the itch, and it has a good feel of chaos, controlled chaos, and you know, you don't know whose turn's gonna come up next. So you kind of try to have to make the best decision you can. So it's pretty good, and it's percentile based, which is what I'm used to. I'm used to percentile based game. Now I like D6 game bases now. I don't know if I couldn't do a World War II game that was D6, but this ancient stuff, yeah, that gives you enough variety. It's deceptively simple. D6 is deceptively simple. There's lots of different outcomes you could have. So, because you're comparing, you know, different things. So, anytime I get sick of the amount of tigers on the table, and they never break down, which they did consistently on the battlefield. Yeah. If you play a game that's that tank heavy, the infantry end up being like not important. And I prefer a game that has mostly infantry and very few vehicles. But then I'm interested in moving individual people and stuff like that. So that's the kind of World War II game I like squad leader zoomed in one level, or maybe even zoomed in two levels. So as I've done the other stuff before, and it's like, okay, that doesn't really scratch the itch. You know, I like those World War II games where like, okay, you throw a grenade, okay, roll to see where it lands. You know, it can be things you can't control. It's not like I want to control things at this total level, but I like this movie, this what's the word I'm thinking of? The dialogue. I want it, the story that it is telling is compelling and interesting and wild. Narrative is the word I'm thinking of. The narrative is what I'm interested in. And if it doesn't have a very interesting narrative, I'm just not interested in playing it. For World War II. I've done all the 1 to 5 scale command decision type games. What's that one I don't care for? That is a D6 system. I think it's a D6 system. Rapid fire. I do not like rapid fire. You know, where you could have any vehicle has a 1 in 6 chance of disabling another one, even if it's a Stewart versus a front armor on a King Tiger. That's just not my game. I'm not saying King Tiger should be invincible, but you know, it shouldn't be a 17% chance of knocking one out when it gets hit with a 37 millimeter gun to the front. You know. Okay. But that's okay. If you enjoy playing that game, by all means, enjoy playing it. You saw the Face of Modern Battle is for sale on War Game Vault. I'm considering it for Mike Horror style mercenary actions in Africa. I'd love to play that kind of stuff. I think Modern Africa is a great theme. Anything goes. I don't know how Face of Modern Battle is. There is the World War II one has a couple different ways you can play it, and it's kind of unique in that respect. Their system kind of makes you have a card for each character, for each figure. So if you're playing, say, a squad, and the squad happens to have 10 figures, you make a card for each figure, and depending on their troop quality, they would have either one card, two cards, or three cards. So if you're talking about guys that don't completely suck and guys that aren't like elites, most figures have two cards per figure. And the idea is that you build two decks. One side builds a deck of figures so that your deck consists of, if you're playing, say, 10 figures on 10 figures and they're all average or normal, for the most part everybody has two cards. You have to have really bad conscript guys to have only one, and you have to have some super elites to have three. So for the most part everybody has two cards. So if it's 10 on 10, you've got two decks of 20 cards each. Okay, and there's a couple different ways you can play it. You can do activation by group. So maybe every group of three guys has one card, or by the each, which is what I would do. Now, what they suggest playing is that there's two decks of cards, and each side flips one over and has someone's name on it. And that's the person who gets their one action. Their action could be move, it could be shooting, it could be throwing a grenade, it could be unjamming a weapon. It could be any of those things. But the idea is that both of them do it at the same time so that nobody's sitting. Is slowing down. I find it really confusing to do it that way. So, and the other thing that becomes really weird is when someone dies, like you shoot one of your guys, then you have to put blank cards so that both decks have the same amount of cards in them. I thought it was just a lot easier to just make one big deck and you pull a card and it's like, oh, okay, it's this figure, it's soldier, whatever his name is, because my figures actually have their surnames on them. Okay, so this is Sharp. So I would have two cards with Sharp's name on them. When one of them comes up, and you don't know what order they can come in. I mean, it could literally, both of his cards could come up first. It's unlikely. It's extremely unlikely, but it could happen. So literally, you can have a moment where this guy moves, and for the most part, there's not any opportunity fire in the game, which sounds stupid, but it makes sense. So this guy could move, and then his card can come up again, and he could move. So he could dart across the street, and nobody ever shoots at him. Now, there's things like machine guns that can put down fire lanes and stuff, but if he's the first person to act in the turn, he could dart across the street and nobody gets to react. Like, well, that's not very realistic. No, but it allows situations like, if you've ever watched Band of Brothers, there's that scene where Spears just takes off and goes down a road. What is it, like an episode 7 or 8 or whatever? He's going towards an 88 thing, and he just takes off down a road. It allows movie moments to happen, and they're very difficult to control. And I think that the game is very captivating from a standpoint of creating a narrative that's very interesting. So, I really like it, but It's mercenary actions, absolutely. It's really geared well towards if you're trying to do stuff like, what's that movie with everybody in it? I know, the Wild Geese, right? If you're doing something like a Wild Geese type thing where you've got like 4 elite guys, you know, definitely geared towards that. So, yeah, I don't know how much it is, but I like the World War II set. And and the one thing that it does is when this guy shoots, his effects and his chance are all on one roll. When we were coming up with our set of rules, we'd be like, okay, what's his chance to hit? And then where he hits, where does he hit on the figure? That kind of stuff. This just kind of puts it all in one roll. And, you don't keep track of ammo, but if you have a jam, a jam could mean many things. You're fumbling trying to put another magazine in. You could actually have a legitimate jam, and it takes an action to try to deal with that kind of stuff. And it isn't always successful. The way leadership is done in the game is really interesting in that, along with those 2 cards they have for each figure, your NCOs, depending on their leadership rating, may have 1 or 2 extra cards themselves that they can use on someone else within a certain radius of them and in line of sight. So if you've got an NCO that's attached to a machine gun and you want the machine gun to keep firing, you put him there, and when his leadership card comes up, because it's all would be in the same pile, when his leadership card comes up, he can activate someone else within his radius to act. Because, like, for instance, when the cards are coming up, you don't know if the loader card comes up before the machine gunner. So maybe the loader card comes up. Well, he doesn't do anything because he's continuing to load the machine gun, but it hasn't fired yet. So the machine gun's fire, for instance, comes up and he jams. But the loader's already gone, so he can't unjam the gun. Well, then the leadership card for the leader comes up, and he can tell the loader, go ahead and unjam the gun. So it forces you to use NCOs in a supporting role when you have a valuable weapon system that you want to keep operational. But there's still that fog of war where you don't know what order things are going to come out in. I love it. I absolutely love it. With that said, it's very slow moving, okay? But I think that if you played it a lot, you could get really on a roll. And again, the whole thing is how big of a force are you playing with? A lot of these people say, I like to play skirmish gaming. Really? Okay, well, how many figures are you using? Oh, well, we're using a platoon on each side. Like, that's not a freaking skirmish gaming. That's like, you're never going to get done gaming, So they'll be like, oh yeah, I got like 5 vehicles on this side. What are you doing with 5 vehicles when you only have a squad of infantry? So, it's not really geared well towards that. But I think that ideally, if I ever get to play it again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run one side so that everyone can basically ask questions as they will. And it's not a difficult system. It's not counterintuitive like this game. But it does have lots of different stuff in it. But it's really simple. Your turn comes up, you get 1 action. So it's like, okay, what are my actions? This, and this. So then you can pick what it is. I think it would suit really well. Just the last time I played it, I ran it at a convention. It is not a good convention game. Nothing that you have to spend an hour and a half explaining the rules is a good convention game. So that's why DBA is an excellent convention game, because you can just start playing. But I did run a scenario at a convention, and that was a mistake because, the problem with running a new game at a convention is you're going to spend a sizable amount of time of the playing area explaining the rules so people have a clue, and then most of the people are never going to play your game again because most players are wishy-washy or involved in lots of different things, or so I really like the system. And the vehicles are just really interesting the way they behave, because they kind of moved in movement steps. So within the whole time, between the time frame of the game. So you got actions of the crew. It can get really bogged down if you have a lot of people. Now, with that said, if I had a setup way back in the early 2000s, like we do now, where we could leave something set up at Mitch's house, yeah, we'd be playing World War II stuff and having a blast. But anyhow, Speaking of DBA, the turn-by-turn play is not necessarily how I believe Ancient Battle was, but I find the overall result of the game is quite historical. Yeah, I just don't like the geometry play. It's too difficult to explain to new players. So, the interaction of different troop types feels well thought out and believable. Yeah, I agree for the most part. I've been gone a long time. Last time I looked, you were painting archers. Now they have automatic weapons. There you go. Okay. So, here they are. These will have to sit overnight. They're about 6 hours or so before we can paint them. But they're going to join. We'll have them join the light horse over here. And honestly, it's probably not going to be until Tuesday that I can do them, if I'm able to paint on Tuesday. So, anywho, these guys are going to be a little bit more colorful than the Irish, but still peasant-ish looking to a degree. So, yeah, I have gone on a long time, and the internet's behaved, and there's no headache, and all is good. All is good. I am probably going to go ahead and call it though, because we do need to go somewhere soon, and I don't want to be in the middle of a thought. But yeah, I don't know how Face of Modern Battle is, but I would do that. I would get that game before I would go and get something like this, which is a really strange set of rules. I think it's an extremely strange set of rules. And it's out of print also. This force on force is just very odd. And honestly, the rules are too beautiful to use on a tabletop. So, and I even have the Bush Wars thing for that. But, yeah, and then they also have, what's the one that's put out by, that Phalanx Consortium sells. I don't know if they're actually the maker when that's this, something Sanguine. That's also a really small scale game. So that might actually work for a mercenary in action in Africa type thing. Skirmish Sanguine, I think is what it's called. I haven't played that. Don't really know anything about it. I know it's a nice looking set of rules too. But these are weird. They're weird in that how they, I like something that it doesn't really differentiate between weapon systems. It differentiates between troop types. So, it doesn't really matter that somebody has an AK-47 or an FAL. They're both going to be the same, and that's a little too strange for me, I hope that the red shirt does not have the same fate as his brethren in classical Star Trek. Well, considering I've only seen 3 episodes of classical Star Trek, I think he'll be okay. It's a fast bow. What could go wrong? It's not like it's a knight or a warband, But, okay. Well, folks, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully it was entertaining, and we'll catch you guys next time. Happy Sunday, folks. Bye-bye.